In our conversation on loops, we touched a bit on pattern matching. I'm going to leave a link to the video in the description. Now, in this video, we're going to take our conversation on matching patterns a notch. We're going to be talking about matching optionals. On our screen, we have two optional constants, and both of are of type string. So we have name and we have password, and currently they both hold values. Now we're going to use a switch case to match these optional values. Now Swift provides us a couple of ways to match optional constants or optional variables, if you like. So we have dot sum and dot none. Dot sum is used to match has a value, while dot none is used to match has no value. So when you look at our switch case here, we switch. Obviously, we pass name and password, these two constants. And then in here we have another local unwrap variable here, which is so we use dot sum to match for name. So you remember dot sum is used to match has value. So here we're matching for name and we're matching for password as well. So these two matches return values. We're able to print this to our console. We're printing password here. Of course, if this were to be a real world application, you don't want to expose a user password like this, but this is just for demonstration purpose. So this should get the job done. Now, for this second case, we're matching for when a name has value, and then for password, we're not matching. So this has no value. So this is going to be like nil for password. We're going to get into all of that. So we're printing this, and then in the event that we couldn't match for any value, we default to this print statement. Like we've said before, our switch case has to be exhaustive in our implementation. So I'm going to run this and let's see what we get. Run. Okay. It's taking a minute. Okay. Debug anyway. Don't know why. Coming. Okay, so it's putting up itself. I was gonna do it manually before. All right, so we get hello user. Your password is pass123. So this is what this first case resolves to values, name and password, like we did here. So remember, these constants are optional constant. So which means for the password, I can do nil. So when I do nil, save this. For this, the first case, the password is not going to resolve to any value because this is now nil. So this is going to go to the second case. So if I run this, we should get hello, the name, and then it says please enter password. We should get that. Okay. All right. So let's solve this like this. So now we say it defaults to the second case, and then it prints this. Yeah, because for the second case, we're using dot none, which means has no value for our password. So our password is nil. So this case resolves, and then we're getting hello user, please enter password. And if I were to change this to nil, that's the name constant, then we get the default, which is going to be no record found. It's taking a minute. Okay, so it says no record found. So that's optional values. Okay. Um, there's another thing I want to call our attention to. I'm going to take this back to user, and then I'm going to take this back to password. Pass 123. No. Pass 123, like so. Um, these are optional constants. When we print now, when we print name and password here the other time, we didn't get an optional construct. The reason we didn't get that is because, well, these constant here, they're not quite the same as the locally unwrapped constant that we have here. That's why we're not getting the optional construct that we could have gotten. So this is what I'm trying to say. I'm going to comment this out. And then if I comment this out, okay, if I comment this out, then I come here. If I do print name, obviously it's giving me a warning saying expression implicitly coerced from string to any. All right, but it's still going to work. I just want to show something. If I were to print this here, check what we're going to get. Okay, it's building. Okay, so now we get optional user, which is the same as what we did here, except when we print name here, we didn't get this construct, this optional user. Well, that's because the constant here and then the locally bound unwrap optional here, they are not quite the same. So, but then if I want to get rid of this, I can just use the bang operator. So this is telling Swift that, okay, this thing actually has a value and it's going to work as before, but I'm not going to run. Okay, I'm just going to run it. And then I'm just going to get user here instead of getting this optional user. Okay, so now I get user. All right. Now, what I'm trying to say is, let me uncomment this before. This name password and this locally bound unwrap optional that we have here, they're not quite the same. But then we didn't get the optional construct when we printed our values here in our case, when our case resolved. Well, I think that's because we've used this dot sum to match the two optionals that we have here. But that's not to say that we cannot delineate between the two. So we can delineate between the two by doing something like this to show that they are not quite the same. We can do something like, instead of using the same variable name here, we could use something like, say we do matched name, and then here instead of password we can do, okay, matched password. Matched password, like so. And then here we can print matched name, and then here we can do matched password. Matched password, like so. And this is still going to work like before. So regardless of what we do, even here I can do username, like so. And then here I can do username like so. So I'm going to save this and then I'm going to run, and then it's going to work. It should work like before. It's taking a minute. Okay, so it's a hello user, your password is 123. So this first case resolved. If I change this to nil, then the second case should resolve. I'm going to run this again. Okay, so it's a hello user, please enter password. So this is working. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to call our attention to the fact that this locally bound unwrap value, or is it constant, we want to call it now, this locally bound unwrap optional, this, they're not quite the same as this, which is why we're able to use another uh, variable name here, and then we still get the same value here. All right. So that's one way of looking at it. Another way we can match optionals in Swift is to implement a much more simpler syntax. Uh, so we can use something like this. Should I type from the? Okay, so here I'm going to delete this. And then instead of using .sum, then we can do name like this, and then a password like this. So here, so we have that question mark. Then here we can do name, and then here we can do password like so. And then for here, we can combine, but then I want to do something else. I want to remove the .sum, and then I'm going to do name, and then instead of .none here, I'm just going to do nil, and then here we're going to do name as well. So this is another way of matching optionals in Swift. The other time I use the bank operator. If I try to use it here, it's not going to work, but because this is an expression. Okay, let me show you. If I did this instead to tell Swift that, okay, see, it's a pattern variable binding cannot appear in an expression. So instead of using the bang operator here, we just use this. So this is going to match for has value. And then when we do nil, it's matching for has no value. So if I save this, we should get this second case, since where password is nil here. So the first one, it's going to match it, which is the name, and then the password, which is nil, it also matches nil here. So it has no value, so we should get this printer statement. Or I'm just going to do this here so that we go back to the first one. Pass 1, 2, 3, save, and then I'm going to run. And then that should give us the first case. It should result to the first case. Okay, so it's a hello user. Your password is pass123. If I change this to nil, and then I change this to nil as well, then we should get this no record found. So I'm gonna run this. So the question mark is saying, okay, continue if a value was found. That's what the question mark is saying here. Continue if the value was found. So The value was not found. It's nailing, so it defaults to this print no record found. Now we can also combine. We can combine dot sum dot none and then the question mark option optional matching in our program. So what I'm trying to say is we can do this. I'm just going to delete this, and then let's say we have let data. I'm going to explicitly set this type to any. So this allows us to set. So I want array. This allows us to set heterogeneous type in our array. So let's say here I want to do David. Then here maybe I do Neil. And then here, I don't know, maybe I'll do, maybe David is 25. I don't know. And then here I do maybe another name. Cynthia. Alright, like so. Now, this is any type. That's why our array is heterogeneous. So this is taking is taking different type as explicitly stated here. Now, if I remove this, it's going to complain. See, it's saying heterogeneous collection literal could only be inferred to any. Add explicit type annotation if this is intentional. So I have to go back to what I have before. So that's it. Now we can match these optional. Remember, our type is optional. Even though it's a collection, it's optional. So everything could be nil. So that's why we have in our items, we have a nil here. So which means if we were to loop through this, in the event when it gets this, the loop will just skip this and move on to the next item. So we can do, for instance, we can do for case let, and then we can do dot sum, and then maybe we want to do date datum in data, and then you want to do print datum. So this is going to print. Remember, dot sum is used to match for hash value. So for in our array collection, for every item that returns a value, it's going to print here inside our for case let loop. So I'm just going to save this, and then I'm going to run it. So we should get David, 25, and Cynthia. So David, 25, Cynthia. So Neil has no value. So dot sum is used for has what is it called? It's used for has it's used to match has value. If I did this, if I did the none, I've not done this before, so it's not even going to say cannot find that term in scope, obviously. So let's go back to here. Another way we can do this. Remember, we're trying to combine. We can also do for datum, and then we use a question mark instead of using dot sum. So this is saying, okay, if you found a value, carry on with the loop. So I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to run this. So this is going to work like before. So I have David, 25, Cynthia. If I change this to Neil, it should change. So we should get 25 Cynthia now, because nil resolves to has no value and has no value as well. So only these two are values that we can use. Okay, so it's a 25 Cynthia. So guys, that's all for this video. I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.